So this final section of the hormones or coordination control booklet is sensitivity in plants, and basically how hormones in plants work. And the main one that we're going to look at is auxins. Okay. Now in this section there's two main questions that we want to answer. Why do plants grow towards the light, and what actually makes them do that? And the answer is this: phototropism. So if we split that up into two little parts, the word photo, which is basically anything to do with light in biology, and tropism is growth towards something. Now this is an example of it in real life. So here we have the light from one direction, and you can see that all the plants in this little pot are trying to grow towards it. So looking at this then, plants like animals respond to changes in their environment. However, they respond to fewer types of stimuli, and in general the response is slower. Now, the stimulus that they might respond to is light, so they'll grow towards light. They'll also grow towards water. They might also grow towards minerals, and those are the main stimuli. So as another one would be gravity. So their roots will know to grow downwards with gravity because that's where they're most likely to find water. Plants respond to the environmental stimuli that have the greatest effect on their growth, so like light, water, minerals. Roots grow towards water when a moisture gradient exists, and shoots tend to grow away from the effects of gravity because they grow upwards. Reasons for these responses are fairly obvious, as they ensure that the plants react in such a way they receive the best conditions for growth. So in terms of this gravity one, the shoots grow upwards away from gravity because they're more likely to get light, and the roots grow down towards it because they're more likely to get water. But the one that we're most focused on here is phototropism, which is how plants grow towards the light. Now, phototropism, most of us will have observed that plants grow towards a light source. Plants left on a windowsill or against the wall of a house usually do not grow straight up but bend towards the sun. You can also probably guess that this response ensures that a plant's stem and leaves receive more light than they would do if there was no response. This means that more photosynthesis will take place and there will be more growth. So to summarize that, if a plant gets more light, it can carry out more photosynthesis. So there can be more growth. So although it's easy to observe the effect of phototropism, what causes it? So I said there was two questions, and one of them was, why do plants bend towards the light? This is why they bend towards the light, so that they can grow more. But this part is why it happens. So the diagram below shows the growth of young seedlings in unilateral light, which just means light coming from one side or source only. So because the light is only coming from here, that's why it's unilateral, and highlights some of the features of phototropism. So we've got 5 shoots here. This wee one is wearing a little hat with foil on it, so no light reaches the shoot. Now we'll leave that for 2 days, and this is what we see. Some of the shoots bend over towards the light, whereas this one with its little hat just grows straight up. So what this told us, or what this told scientists at the time, was it shows that the shoot tip is sensitive to light. Now the tip is the bit at the very top, because when it's covered, the phototrophic response does not occur, or in other words, when the tip is covered, it doesn't bend towards the light. This and many other similar experiments have led our understanding that the response of phototropism is caused by a plant hormone auxin. So let's have a little bit more look in more detail. So auxin is the plant hormone which causes the shoot to bend. When the stem is illuminated from one side, this hormone tends to accumulate more on the non-illuminated side, which basically means the darker side. The effect of the hormone is to increase the growth of the non-illuminated side of the stem more rapidly than the side receiving most light. The differential growth that occurs when one side of the stem grows more than the other side leads to the stem bending in the direction of the light. Now, this differential growth basically means that one side grows at a different rate than the other. So the auxin is actually produced at the tip of the shoot and diffuses downwards. As it does so, light on one side causes the auxin to accumulate on the non-illuminated or the dark side. The main effect of this is the high concentration of auxins is to make each cell grow by elongation, so it becomes longer, more than it normally would. The cells on the non-illuminated side of the stem therefore increase in length more than those on the non-illuminated side, causing the stem to bend towards the light. So here's what happens then. The light comes from one side only, so we can call this unidirectional light. Now, this little shoot is going to see the light here, and at the tip, the auxin is going to be produced. Now, as we said there, the auxin will only go down the dark side or the non-illuminated side. This side over here would be the light side. So think of auxin as you in the morning whenever somebody comes and turns your light on. You don't like being in the light, you'd rather be in the dark, and that's like auxin. So auxin doesn't like the light, so it diffuses down the dark side. So light comes from one direction, the auxin is produced at the tip, auxin moves to the shaded side and diffuses down the shoot. Now, this is what we're saying happens to the cells. And this part here, if we're comparing these two, this shows differential growth. The cells on the shaded side grow more and are longer, whereas the cells on the non-shaded side are a shorter length. So auxin has caused the shoot to bend towards the light by causing differential growth. The cells on the outside, or the dark side, grow longer than the cells on the inside, and that causes the shoot to bend towards the light. Now, for no other reason other than Star Wars' class, over here we've got the light side, and over here is the dark side. So the auxin is produced at the tip, and the auxin goes to the dark side. So this animation just shows this in real life. So here we have a plant with the sun, and here is a little shoot. So the auxins are produced at the tip, they diffuse down the shoot, but the auxin travels to the shady side or the dark side. At the dark side it causes more growth, so in this case the shoot bends upwards towards the light. How is it possible to keep plants in unilateral light, for example a plant growing on a windowsill, growing straight? So what you need to make sure you do is turn the plant every day to ensure all parts of the plant get equal amounts of light, because the auxin will not just build up on one side and cause bending. By constantly turning the plant, it means that the auxins are equally distributed. Now, this next question is fairly typical of GCSE question. We've got 3 plant stems, A, B and C, at the start and the end of an experiment. So here's the start, and here's the end of A, the start and the end of B, and the start and the end of C. Now, in this one we can see at the start there's no covering, so the shoot grows up and towards the light. At B, it's got a little hat on, so it just goes up, but it doesn't grow. Jesus Christ, Alfie. Right, I have no idea where I was. So, A grew up and across towards the light. B just grew up but not across. And C goes up and across. So, what do these results actually show us about the region of the plant stem which is sensitive to light? Well, it suggests that the tip is the sensitive part, because in this part, when it was left free, it bent towards the light. In this part, it bent up but not across. And in this part, it bent up and across. So it shows us that the tip is sensitive to light. And this is because in B, when it's covered, there's no bending towards the light. But in C, the stem is covered, but the tip is left exposed and the bending occurs. Now explain what causes the plant stem to bend towards the light. So you could even put this into a little flow chart. If there's unidirectional light, auxin is produced at the tip. It diffuses down the dark side. It causes cell elongation and differential growth down the dark side, and as a result, plant bends towards light. Now, why is this beneficial to plants? Because if they get more light, they can get more photosynthesis, which means they can have more sugar for respiration. And if they can carry out more photosynthesis, it means there can be more growth taking place.